Hello, everyone. We are live and excited. What a week it's been, as we've been looking at the new details that have been coming out for the new classes. Today, we're going to be looking at the fighter class and what we can expect from the fighter class over the coming months, or in the coming months when it is released. We're going to be looking at all of the new announcements for the fighter class, D&D's most popular class, in fact. And we're going to be comparing that to what we can see already in the fighter class for 5th edition in 2014, the 2014 version. There have been a lot of classes. I've been trying to get a video out, get a live stream out, so I can cover them all and do it all in one fell swoop. But it's just been too much to keep up with, and I've not been able to keep up with it all. So I thought I'd at least get a video out and start looking at the fighter, and maybe do these things one at a time instead of trying to cover everything because it's a lot. We are going to be taking a look at the breakdown that they have kindly provided over on D&D Beyond of the new character classes, or rather the various character classes that have been coming up. They've been putting these lovely breakdowns on, so you can get an overview of things as to what to expect from those. So we're going to be going through that, but I'm going to be taking a look at the current Player's Handbook. Mine is falling apart. Different bits coming out. Mine's falling apart, so I'm looking forward to getting a new one. Miz has been well loved. So I'm going to be taking a look at the 2014 fighter, comparing notes, because this breakdown that they've given us on D&D Beyond is incomplete. They do actually state that there are some things that they won't be mentioning in this breakdown, which is things like extra attack, for example. Not mentioning them because they've been unchanged. So in this video, I'm just going to break things down bit by bit and compare where we're at. So what is new for the 2024 fighter? Well, at level 1, you'll be getting your fighting styles still, but rather than being a part of the class and embedded in the class, fighting styles are a form of feat, apparently, which is an interesting choice. But they'll discuss a little bit more in detail as to why they made that choice in a moment, and also some of those getting some minor tweaks. Second Wind has also been tweaked. You will still be getting that, but you'll apparently gain more uses of that as you level up. And again, we'll cover that in detail in a moment. The new Weapon Mastery system, which I'm very, very excited for, and we'll cover that. At second level, you now get a new option, which is Tactical Mind, which is interesting. I'm assuming from this that, and from what they've said about things not being covered, that Action Surge will remain, much like with extra attack as well. So I'm assuming that's still a thing. Then at level 3, you get to choose your fighter subclass. We'll only be touching briefly on those in this video, but that includes the Battlemaster, the Champion, the Eldritch Knight, and the Psy Warrior. At 5th level, on top of extra attack, you'll also be getting Tactical Shift, which is a new feature. At 9th level, Indomitable has been tweaked, where you'll be able to add fighter levels to the rerolls. Tactical Master at level 9 is actually a new one, where you'll be able to replace Weapon Mastery properties. At 13th level, you'll get Studied Attacks. And at 19th level, you'll be getting an Epic Boon. Let's dive in and take a look at all of these specifics, shall we? So, fighting styles at level 1. So here's what they've said. They remain mostly the same, with a couple of tweaks to make them more streamlined and more effective. The most significant change being that the options from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything have now been included in the core rules. And all of those features are now considered feats, with a prerequisite that requires the fighting style feature to be picked up. So they've separated the actual individual fighting styles to be feats, with fighting style being a prerequisite, because multiple classes, as is the case with 2014 Player's Handbook, some of the classes, get the fighting style feature, and rather than having them all laid out in each class, they're moving it over to the feats section for streamlined purposes, I presume. So at level 1, you get to choose one of those feats as part of the fighter's fighting style feature, and then every time you gain a fighter level, you can swap out your choice in case you get tired of, as they've said, protecting your glass cannon wizard and want to swing a two-handed weapon instead. I've been quite vocal about my position on things changing all the time. I understand it from a gameplay perspective, but it does seem to me that it seems a little bit strange that you would forget how to fight in a certain fighting style, and I don't really know how I would make that work in the narrative, that suddenly you don't fight with defensive maneuvers. In fact, you can't fight with defensive maneuvers, and now you can simply only fight with your two-handed weapon style instead. Or rather, not that you can't, but you're just suddenly not very good at it. It just seems a little bit weird to me. But this is a running theme that we are seeing in the 2024 version of the core rules, where when you level up, you get to respec a lot of your character. Which, again, I understand from a gameplay perspective, but I like in my narratives in my D&D games for characters to remain consistent. You know, I just like that. Like, characters have increasingly become the sum of their character sheets in 5th edition, and it just feels a little bit to me like we're doubling down on that with this. Because, well, rather, if we have doubled down on that, then all fighters are going to feel the same. And I worry for that. I don't want every fighter to feel the same because they can change things every level. I like my unique things. But that could just be me being a little Mr. Panicky Poo. So, Second Wind is getting a little bit of a tweak. So, as Second Wind currently exists, and I'm just going to refresh my mind on this just in case I get it wrong. On your turn, you can use a bonus action. Yeah. Once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you can use it again. So Second Wind starts at 2 uses now at level 1, so not just 1, and increases as you level up. Each short rest you regain 1 expended use, and on a long rest you regain all expended uses. Thanks to Tactical Mind and Tactical Shift, this resource has also been made effective when you're not on the edge of death. So Second Wind is kind of becoming a resource pool for the fighter to dip into. It's kind of a little bit like Bardic Inspiration and things like that. So Second Wind has become a resource pool for them to tap into, and you'll see with Tactical Mind and Tactical Shift how that resource gets used, which I think is why they've gone for increasing the number of uses that you have, and also allowing those usage increases. No, hang on. Allow the uses to increase as you level up. Alright. Next up then, and this is part of a new feature, obviously, is Weapon Mastery. So, you get to customize your kit with the new Weapon Mastery feature. And if you're not familiar with the new Weapon Mastery feature, God, how many times can you say Weapon Mastery feature in one sentence? If you're new to the concept, what it allows you to do is, if you are able to master weapons, you're essentially able to unlock special effects and abilities when using those weapons. Now, not necessarily each weapon has a unique feature, but there are like categories of features. So, for example, you have Graze, Sap, and Slow, which are mentioned for the Greatsword, Flail, and Javelin. There are multiple weapons that have the graze property, multiple that have the sap, and multiple that have the slow. So it's not unique to each weapon. But what it allows you to do is, the name implies, is you have mastery over that weapon, so you are able to use it to its maximum potential in combat to get some additional effects. So choose any weapons that you'd like to access their mastery properties of. For example, the great sword, flail, and javelin from one of your starting equipment options, and you'll get access to graze. So this isn't all of the properties, but this is just some examples. With the great sword's mastery property graze, you damage enemies even if you miss them with attacks. The damage is equal to the ability score modifier used to make the attack, so make sure to pump your strength and make even those misses hurt. So the graze property, when you have weapon mastery, is even if you miss, you're going to do some damage. It's not going to be as much damage. It's going to be some damage. So it's going to make it harder for a fighter to feel useless when they miss, which is very welcome. Of course, that's only if you've got weapons with the graze property. So sap gives creatures that you hit disadvantage on their next attack roll. So the idea is that you're actually then kind of wearing them down, if you will. So as it mentions here on D&D Beyond, combined with your high AC, this will make you an annoying thorn or flail in your enemy's sides. And yeah, that will be, from a dungeon master's perspective, that'll be very annoying when fighters start using sap on your NPCs. Because then fighters are often usually hard to hit anyway because they have high AC. You keep throwing just disadvantage every time they hit you. That's going to be really very annoying indeed. And then with the javelin has slow. So if you need to keep a bit of distance between you and your foe, the javelin's slow property reduces your target speed by 10 feet until next turn when you hit. This will allow you to get out of dodge or allow an ally to create some much needed space. So that is very similar to the Ray of Frost feature, of course, that wizards have access to, and other arcane spellcasters, just slowing things by 10 feet. So you can see how with this weapon mastery system, things get much more tactical, much more quickly. The fighter now is no longer just running in and hitting things and being hit back, and just this back and forth of, I roll a d20, you roll a d20, I roll a d20, you roll a d20. Suddenly things become a little bit more cinematic, dynamic. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on the weapon mastery system. I have oft not been a fan of martial classes because I find them quite dull, but this piques my curiosity, certainly. So when we get to level 2 then, fighters will be getting their hands on Tactical Mind, which is a new feature. So when you fail an ability check, you can expend a use of Second Wind to gain 1d10 to add to the roll. The plus, your Second Wind usage isn't expended if you still fail. So this is another thing that we're starting to see as well in 2024 rules updates, is that when things fail, sometimes they're like, yeah, you can keep that thing. Which, I don't know. I mean, from a dungeon master's perspective, like, my job is to, as a dungeon master's perspective, my job is to continue to threaten your resources, as well as, you know, provide a great story and fun. But from a tactical level, my job is to try and reduce your resources to increase the drama. You know, more resources, less drama; less resources, more drama. You know, and I don't know if I'm a fan, therefore, of this decision to let players keep their resources even if they fail with them. Not because I'm a bully, but just because it's going to be harder for the DM to create drama, unless, of course, they're going to give the Dungeon Masters more toys to play with in that regard, but I am not going to hold my breath on that. So yes, tactical mind. So if you fail an ability check, a second wind adds 1d10 to the roll, which is useful both in and out of combat, of course. So then we have the fighter subclasses. They are, again, the Battlemaster, the Champion, the Eldritch Knight, and the Psi Warrior, which is your psionic option for your classes, your fighter subclass, rather. And what we're looking at here is a few tweaks. The Champion being the one that's had the most updates. The Battlemaster, Eldritch Knight, and Psi Warrior just having some slight tweaks. So, the Battlemaster, the number of superiority dice and maneuvers that you receive will remain the same, as will the scaling of the superiority dice. So, in terms of that, superiority dice, Battlemaster, so you get 4 superiority dice, which are d8s. A superiority die is expended when you use it. You regain all of your expended superiority dice when you finish a short or long rest. That's how it currently stands. So those will remain the same in terms of how many you have, and obviously the increase in dice size, if you will. They've brought over maneuvers, because obviously there's maneuvers for the Battlemaster. They've also brought in the additional ones that were added into Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Some of them have been tweaked slightly. There was a change to Know Your Enemy, which removes the 1-minute observation condition. Interesting. I suppose that makes sense on that one. That does make sense, because who's got 1 minute to observe in combat? But it does only reveal immunities, so it doesn't give you any other detail. Oh no, sorry, immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities. So they've limited the scope. I was going to say immunities was a bit cheeky. Also, at level 15, Relentless Presence now allows you to use a free d8 instead of spending your regular superiority dice for maneuvers once per turn. Relentless Presence. Relentless Presence, I'm guessing, is a replacement for just Relentless. So Relentless, starting at 15th level, when you roll initiative and have no superiority dice remaining, you regain 1 superiority dice. Due to free... Oh, is this a new feature for the Battlemaster? Huh. Okay. I think it might be. Okay. That's cool. So, level 15 Relentless Presence now allows you to use a free d8 instead of spending your regular superiority dice for maneuvers once per turn. Wow! That's a lot. I mean, Relentless. That makes sense. So, the Champion... excuse me. The Champion, which has had the most updates, as they said, it's still mostly about focusing on getting critical hits with some added bonuses. Remarkable Athlete for the Champion, which was 7th level, will now be coming in at 3rd level and gives advantage on initiative rolls. So Remarkable Athlete at the moment, you can add half your proficiency bonus to any strength, dexterity, or constitution check you make that doesn't already use your proficiency bonus. In addition, when you make a running long jump, the distance you can cover increases by a number of feet equal to your strength modifier. So what they've said here is that it gives you advantage on initiative rolls and athletics checks. So they have dramatically nerfed that feature, I think, from the sounds of things. Though I might be wrong. It's difficult to say when we haven't got the full written breakdown here, so I might be wrong on that. You also get access to a new feature at level 10 called Heroic Warrior, which gives you heroic inspiration whenever you start your turn without it. Now, heroic inspiration is the new version of inspiration that they're introducing, which replaces inspiration from the 2014 Player's Handbook. Instead of giving you advantage on a roll, it's a re-roll on any dice roll, whereas advantage is limited to d20 rolls. The Heroic Inspiration is a reroll of any dice you like. And this Heroic Warrior feature gives you Heroic Inspiration whenever you start a turn without it. At 10th level, which I don't think is too bad at all. Okay, now, the Eldritch Knight, which they've said here, remains mostly the same, with some small changes to War Magic and improved War Magic. Instead of getting to attack once as a bonus action when you use a cantrip... Instead of getting to attack once as a bonus action when you cast a cantrip as an action... Okay. You can simply replace an attack with a cantrip. Okay, the idea being that you have multiple attacks anyway as a fighter, so you replace the attack with the instead of getting to attack once as a bonus action when you cast a cantrip. So if you're casting a cantrip, say Ray of Frost, you also then can use your bonus action to attack again. Okay. Instead, you replace an attack with a cantrip. So I guess that means then you get to still keep your bonus action. This allows you to intermix your magic and attacks more effectively, especially when you get 2 extra attacks at level 11. I'm trying to get my head around this one. Improved War Magic follows this trend, but requires you to forgo 2 attacks to cast a level 1 or level 2 spell. Okay. I don't know necessarily how that's better. I don't necessarily know how that's better. I suppose with extra attack, though, because you're not getting extra actions, you're getting extra attacks as part of that action. I guess that helps, because if you use an action to cast a cantrip, you can attack then as a bonus action. Whereas if you get if you're using extra attack, you would have 2 attacks, but of course you couldn't use the action to cast a cantrip in there. I see. So it just allows a little bit more flexibility. I suppose you get to keep your bonus action as well, which is also good. God, that was a little bit harder to get. I'm going to defend myself here. I have not had any caffeine today. I've gone cold turkey today on caffeine for reasons I won't go into. But my God, it has affected my brain more than I thought. Yeah, that one was a little bit tough with lack of caffeine. So the Psy Warrior, which they introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, they have said is mainly unchanged, which suggests to me that it is pretty much entirely unchanged. Perhaps other than wording of things. Okay, so then at 5th level, you obviously get extra attack as normal, but you'll also be getting Tactical Shift. If your caster buddy is getting pummeled across the battlefield, but you can't risk an opportunity attack to get to them, all you need to do is use Second Wind as a bonus action. With Tactical Shift, your Second Wind allows you to move up to half your speed as part of the bonus action, and you don't provoke opportunity attacks. Now that is an awesome one, and a nice feature to add in at level 5 as well. I kind of feel like that's when it becomes kind of important to be able to move around the battlefield. I think it will help to prevent the situation of what will often happen in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is everybody slowly moves towards each other and then hit. This will allow things, and this is where I'm hoping the fight is going to become better anyway. Things are going to move around a lot more, hopefully, across the battlefield. Once you're out of your foe's reach, you can use the rest of your movement to get where you need to go. So it's basically like a souped up disengage, where you're using a bonus action instead to disengage and also moving as part of that. So that's pretty cool. A super disengage. At level 9, Indomitable, which is a feature that currently does exist in the base class anyway, but they have tweaked things slightly. So, Indomitable. beginning at 9th level, this is how it reads in the 2014 Player's Handbook. Beginning at 9th level, you can re-roll a saving throw that you fail. If you do so, you must use the new roll, and you can't use the feature again until you finish a long rest. Okay. Now, as it says here, the feature now lives up to its name. When you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll with a bonus equal to your fighter level. You heard that right! By the time you get this feature, that will be +9 to your re-rolls. Eventually, you'll be able to add 20 to your roll. Okay, so you're re-rolling, but actually you're more likely to succeed this time. Now, it should be stated that you only get to use it once after a long rest, or between long rests. So it's not all that powerful, but it makes sense that it should come with a bonus now. I think if it's a resource like that. Now, if that won't help you avoid a Lich's dominating monitor, maybe you shouldn't have taken a 6 in wisdom. Okay, thank you for that pithy comment. Tactical Master at level 9. Again, another new feature that's coming in alongside Indomitable. Dial up your mastery over weapons. When you attack with a weapon you've chosen as part of your weapon mastery feature, you can swap out the mastery properties for push, sap, or slow. We've already covered push and sap under our weapon mastery section, so here's a breakdown of how push works. I think they meant slow and sap. Anyway, so push. When you hit a creature, push it 10 feet away in a straight line. No ability check or saving throw on the push creature's part required. So you just get to push 10 feet away. Again, this kind of moving around of the battlefield, things shifting and it being in constant flux, seems to be a running theme with the fighter here, which I am all here for. Swapping out mastery properties on the move is incredible for your versatility and will allow you to capitalize on strategic decisions. Oh. Okay, so presumably then this is in the middle of combat. You can just be like, oh, yeah, this weapon normally has sap. I'm giving it push. Cool. If you're standing at the edge of a cliff, this will let you swap out the greatsword's potential graze for a much more devastating push off said cliff, adding more strategy than ever to a fighter's arsenal. And that is so on theme, and I love that. That does make sense. I can make that make sense in my head of like, oh yeah, okay, I can see you get to swap that around all the time because you know how to use it. That I like. Level 13, Studied Attacks, also a new feature. We all hate whiffing on attacks, but this new ability does a lot to make sure you're at least not whiffing twice in a row. Great. If you make an attack against a creature and miss, you get advantage on your next weapon attack against the same creature until the end of your next turn. So, whenever you miss your first attack and critical hit on your second because of advantage, you can say that first one was for research. Yeah, I think this is a good feature. You know, I think there are far too many times to count where the fighter, who is the person that's meant to be very good at hitting things, can't seem to hit a damn thing. Just because, and whilst everybody else can because they're targeting saving throws and such like. So this is a welcome change and a welcome one. Just to try and reduce the amount of times that happens, because it does happen far, far too often. So, Epic Boons are a new type of feat that you get at level 19, introduced in the revised core rule set, and that are level locked. At level 19, the fighter gets your choice of one of the 12 Epic Boon feats found in the 2024 Player's Handbook. The following Epic Boon is a recommended option for the fighter. So, interestingly, just before I go into that, they seem to put 12 Epic Boons in the Player's Handbook, which presumably suggests that there is only one Epic Boon per class. But I suppose that also suggests that they are planning on releasing more Epic Boons at a later date. Maybe. so you can swap out some capstone abilities with some epic boons potentially. Well, not swap them out, but you know what I mean. So the boon of the combat prowess. Increase 1 ability score by 1 to a maximum of 30. Okay. Also, whenever you miss an attack roll, you can hit instead. Once you use this ability, you can't use it again until the start of your next turn. Okay. So, you are guaranteed at 19th level to hit at least once every round. Which is, again, for all of the reasons that I stated around studied attacks, again, I think a welcome addition. So that is essentially the breakdown of the fighter class that they've presented on D&D Beyond. They do go into a little bit more detail on some of the subclasses on their YouTube channel. It has been a little bit of a scramble for me, I must confess, trying to work out what format I'm going to do these in, whether I want to stick with the format of comparing things from the last Player's Handbook and comparing things, next to each other, and also how much detail I want to go into on the subclasses and stuff. My original plan was to basically do these in batches because these videos are coming out thick and fast. But I'm thinking that maybe I should also follow suit and go with a thick and fast approach, and maybe do a couple of these every week, maybe. But I'm really looking forward to this fighter class. I'm feeling like I'm very much now on the hype train, so to speak, for this new update for D&D 2024. I am kind of very much on that hype train. I am the changes that I'm seeing, though I don't agree with all of them. There are some that I do have a problem with. It does feel like a cleaner game and a much more highly produced set of game mechanics. Things feel, at least on paper, tighter, and that is definitely a very good thing when things feel tighter and like they will tick over much better. So I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm loving the weapon mastery system. I knew that was going to be get through all the playtests no issue because it just looks so good. It feels now like the fighter isn't the boring class, and I think that's part of the problem with the 2014 fighter. Is it just feels like the boring class. It's like, okay, yeah, you can hit more. Cool. You can hit more, and you can attack more, and you can stand in the middle of the battlefield for longer, but that's not very sexy or exciting. And it feels to me like what they've done now for the 2024 fighter is to actually make it exciting again to be a fighter. Which, it's interesting because the fighter is actually the most played D&D class for 5th edition, and has been for some time. In fact, I believe the most popular name is Bob. So Bob the Fighter, presumably, is the most popular 5th edition D&D character. But I've always found it interesting because I don't find the fighter to be an exciting class personally. I usually play spellcasters if I do play at all, rather than being a DM, that is. But it does feel as though they've gone for something here a little bit more sexy and exciting, which is very good and very, very welcome. Because I actually, now I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I would actually quite enjoy giving the fighter a go. Because now with all of these weapon mastery things and things like that, it feels as though the fighter is going to feel much more cinematic in combat. Because you know, like with Greys, for example, you know how that's going to look. You know, you just catch somebody on the edge, just a minor flesh wound, or push or sap. You know you're just kind of wearing them down. and things like that. So it kind of, it feeds in the narrative better, it feeds in the tactics better. I feel like combat's going to be much more dynamic. Again, not just everybody running towards each other and then hit. It's going to be much more kind of hit, I push you back. We run around for a little bit and then we go back to each other, and you know, that's going to feel much more interesting to play. So I'm really liking what I'm hearing with the fighter class. Next time I think we will probably cover either the paladin or the barbarian, I would have thought. Probably do things in order that they've done them, perhaps. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I still haven't fully worked out a schedule. This kind of sprang on everybody in terms of all of these updates coming in the manner in which they're coming. But it'll probably be Tuesdays, Thursdays. I think I've said that before, probably. But I know it's been a little bit rambly again. I've been a little bit low on caffeine today. So, well, completely no caffeine, in fact. So it's probably not been the most smooth running a video, but I really appreciate you tuning in anyway and listening to me ramble about these things for half an hour. If you haven't yet already, by the way, do make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. I'll be doing more of these live streams talking about these things, and of course, if you haven't actually checked out the actual play that we do, which is D&D 5th edition 2014 rules, going to have to start differentiating them, I suppose, these days. We are now over 130 episodes into our campaign, which has began with Lost Mine of Phandelver and evolved into something completely unique, with a wonderful set of characters. So do check that out if you haven't done so already. So, thank you very much for tuning in, everyone, and I will see you next time as we uncover more of these new exciting classes for the 2024 core rules.